this video, we're going to cover how to add a new recipe or formula. In this example, we'll be entering beef jerky, which will need to include recipes for the marinade, jerky, and a finished item. In this example, we'll say the beef jerky is sold by weighted packs. This video was created using version 2.8.035 of FlexiBake. If you are using a different version of the program, there may be some variance from what is seen in this video. If you require further support, please click the FlexiBake logo found in the bottom left corner of the program to be brought to our support page. To begin, click the New Recipe button located in the Inventory Center. The first step in this example will be to create a recipe for our jerky marinade. If your recipes have codes, then begin by entering your recipe code. Click in the text box below and enter the recipe name. To create a new category for this recipe, first click the Category button, then click New, name the category, click OK, and OK again to return to the previous window. Now, since this is a recipe from which other recipes will be made, I will click the Base Recipe checkbox. I'm now going to start adding the ingredients that are required to make the recipe. It is recommended to enter the ingredient quantities that are required to create the typical or maximum batch size, which is often determined by equipment capacity. Entering your maximum or typical batch size ensures accuracy when reporting costing and production on your recipes and products. Click the text box beside where it says raw material and start typing your first ingredient. Pressing F2 while in this box will bring up a full list of raw materials and recipes containing the letters entered. Double-click the required item and press Tab on your keyboard to jump to the quantity field. The default unit of the ingredient is automatically selected, but you can choose another unit by clicking on the drop-down and selecting from the list. Enter the quantity and click the Add button. The batch weight will increase by the weight of each ingredient added. You can choose to display the recipe weight in pounds, pound ounces, or kilograms by selecting your preferences from the Administration tab, Preferences, in the General tab, and at the top of the window. Now, you will notice as I start typing the name of the next ingredient that the program is attempting to auto-complete it by searching the records for matching text. If the desired ingredient or recipe is displayed before you have finished typing, press the Tab key to move the cursor to the quantity field, enter the quantity, and click the Add button. I'm going to quickly add the remaining ingredients required. To save the information entered, click the OK button in the top right corner. Now, I'm going to show you how to update ingredients already entered. First, I'm going to change the quantity of hot pepper sauce required, and I'm also going to add an instruction that will appear alongside this ingredient on the printed recipe, which is referred to as a work order. To do this, I select the record by clicking on it, then change the quantity, enter the instruction, and this time click on the Update button. If I want pepper to appear as the first ingredient of the recipe, I select the record, and then click on the up or down arrow to change to the desired position. To add a blank line between two ingredients, select the ingredient that you want to appear below the blank line, and then click on the Add Blank Line button. Click on the OK button to save the changes. Looking at the batch weight area at the bottom of the screen, a batch waste factor has not been entered, and so the net weight is equal to the gross weight. If you decide to enter a waste factor, the net weight will be automatically updated to reflect this loss. In this instance, my waste factor would be marinade left in the mixing bowl or bag, as we are not yet taking into account the water loss of this recipe. As mentioned before, a printed recipe is referred to as a work order. To enter details to be shown on your work order, click on the Production tab. Select a work order style from the drop-down list that works for your recipe and your business. Recipe instructions can be added in the text box at the bottom of the screen. To print the recipe, click the Work Order button, enter the number of batches or the net weight required, and click the OK button. The ingredients required to make the gross batch weight are displayed on the work order. This work order can be exported, printed, or emailed as required. To enter the labor required to make this recipe, click the Labor Cost Summary tab. To create a new labor category, click the Category button, enter the name of the labor required, their rate per hour, and click the Add button. Now, close to return to the previous window, select the labor category from the drop-down, how many people of that category this recipe will require, and how long it will take them in hours or minutes. Then, click the Add button. You will see the cost summary below has been updated with the labor costs. To view the cost summary in more detail, you can click on either the detailed or summary costing reports. Now, click the OK button to save the record. Now that our marinade recipe has been created, we are ready to create our jerky recipe. To do this, click the Close button, and then the New Recipe button. Start with the recipe code and name. Then, enter the category, or choose it from the drop-down if the category already exists. Next, move to the raw material field and enter the jerky formula. First, enter in the marinade we created, and next, add in your meat pieces. Again, click OK to save, and enter the Production tab to select a desired work order style and enter instructions. Once that is completed, enter the Labor Cost Summary tab and enter in the labor required. At this step, we are simply adding the production and labor required to put the meat in the marinade and store it. Click Close to return to the inventory center once completed. Now that we have our meat in our marinade, we are ready to create what is known as a finished item recipe. In this instance, our finished item recipe will link to our jerky recipe, but will take into effect the water loss for nutritional and costing purposes. To begin, click the New Recipe button. When naming a finished item recipe, it is recommended to add an FI before the name to make it easier to link to products later in the process. For example, I will add FI Beef Jerky as my recipe name. Categorize the recipe, and then move to the Formula tab. Here, we will link the recipe that we just created. To do this, enter the recipe name. Once it populates, click Add to enter the full batch size. At the bottom of the screen, in the batch weight area, we can see the gross and net weight of this batch. This data is based on the batch before it is processed. If you know the waste and/or cripple factors, these can be entered in this area as well. Enter in the production instructions and labor required to cook the jerky, and click OK to save the record. To enter water loss to this recipe, to ensure the nutrient breakdown and costing will reflect the loss, click the Nutritional Analysis tab, and then enter either the weight after processing or specifically add the water loss after processing in weight or percent. For example, if the batch weighs 30 pounds before processing and 15 pounds after, this can be entered here. This loss of 50% is automatically populated in the water loss or gain fields. Click OK to save the record. This recipe is now ready to be linked to a product, which will be shown in subsequent training videos. This concludes this training video. Thanks for watching.